quite a lot of things going on in the world of Mormonism right now, but to be honest, no single one of them is enough to really make an entire video on. That's a train. As I was saying, there's no single thing in Mormonism right now that I can really get into enough depth about to make an entire video. So I thought, hey, why not just combine them together?
John Derral of Mormon Stories was contacted on the 14th of November by church lawyers who were bothered by his use of the word Mormon. Turns out the church has a trademark on the term, and we did see that come up when Heather Gay tried to trademark the title of her book, Bad Mormon.
I'll say now what I said back in 2023 in the case of Heather Gay. It seems very much a cakeism for the church to simultaneously want to control the use of the term Mormon as a trademark, but at the same time declare its use as a nickname for the church.
A major victory for Satan.
The start of Russell M. Nelson's premiership as prophet of the Mormon Church back in 2018 saw him undertake a concerted effort to eliminate the use of the term Mormon as a nickname for the church, while at the same time swearing that it was
not rebranding.
At this point, I was meant to bring a ball with me to drop it. Having dropped the Mormon ball, they were also still insisting that no one else can play with it.
I know that's not a perfect analogy. John Derral has been operating for the best part of 20 years under the Mormon Stories brand. It's not like he just tried to play with the church's ball only after they dropped it.
They'd been sharing the ball in harmony for years, and particularly when Russell M. Nelson declared the term Mormon anathema, no one thought there'd be a problem. So what changed? Well, I do wonder whether the new prophet, Darren H. Oakes, really likes the word Mormon and wants to try and bring it back.
Nemo of the outdoors, I have to stop you there. Because can you actually imagine if the nickname Mormon comes back? How do we even begin to reconcile that with Nelson's declaration that it was a
major victory for Satan?
And most importantly, how will members and apologists survive the overwhelming feeling of cringe when they look back at all the times they said things like, I don't know what the Mormon Church is, but if you're talking about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we don't believe insert thing that the church now actually admits to.
I said in my Patreon exclusive video last week that I really don't know what to say when people ask me if I'm a YouTuber. Hello. It's alright, just film myself doing silly things. But one thing I definitely don't want them to call me is an influencer. The church, however, doesn't seem to have a problem at all with influencers. And that is what we call a classic segue.
Because this week they called the man behind the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel, Luke Nichols, to a church leadership position. In fact, do you remember when I said this? But it does make me wonder if we'll start to see certain other YouTubers, say those who tout apologetics for the church, called into similar positions in future. Turns out I needn't have wondered, because in this round of 14 men called, another 2 individuals beyond Luke Nichols are Mormon content creators. First up is Parker Walbeck, who not only has a successful YouTube channel on filmmaking, but he's also the man behind this apologetic channel as well. Then we have Derral Eves, who founded VidSummit and was the executive producer of The Chosen. So we have 3 pretty significant figures of the YouTube world on this advisory board. And unfortunately it is only 3, because I did check and the guy from Cinema Therapy, Jonathan Decker, who's also a Mormon, didn't make the cut. Hopefully he will one day though, because I do like his videos. So while it's nice to see the church appreciating YouTubers for a change, I do wonder what this says about their desire for better PR and their need to try and retain their youth. After all, the Salt Lake Tribune has just reported that Gen Z and millennials are leaving the church in the US. Now, when I said I was not sure we'd seen anything like the call of Luke Nichols before, I should have been sure that I'd completely forgotten Emily Belle Freeman. She was a Mormon influencer before her call as the Young Women General President. Though that said, the call of Luke Nichols is someone whose influence spreads far beyond Mormonism. But I hear you ask, what exactly are these advisory boards? I say boards plural because in a rare move, the Young Women's Program got one of these boards a whole 2 years before the Young Men's Program. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what these boards are or what specifically they'll be doing. The church's description is somewhat ambiguous. All I do know is there are of course some very influential and independently wealthy people on them, and advisory board sounds incredibly corporate, lending further credence to the criticism that the church is a corporation and not just legally.
For important legal reasons, I'm about to start saying the word allegedly a lot. Which reminds me of this time I was shooting for a project, and it kind of just became this joke that every time the producer would say something, we would say, allegedly. Oh, and be sure to subscribe because I'm told that that project should be coming out next year. Allegedly.
All that is to say, Wade Christofferson, brother of one of the church's highest leaders, D. Todd Christofferson, is a paedophile. Allegedly. Except in this case, I do sincerely mean allegedly. Wade Christofferson has not been proven guilty in a court of law. All we can report on at the moment are the things that he is alleged to have done. If the things he is accused of are proven, and if it's true, as floodlit.org is reporting, that the church excommunicated then rebaptized Wade Christofferson and placed him in at least 3 bishoprics, then this is potentially a huge problem for the church, because it is likely after his alleged excommunication that he would have had a flag put on his record, so he wouldn't have been allowed to work in any positions that put him in contact with children. So in order for him to have served on a bishopric and have access to children, that flag would have been ignored or removed. And if it was removed, that, according to the church handbook, can only be done with First Presidency approval. And while his brother, D. Todd Christofferson, was not on the First Presidency until this year, it is alleged that he knew in 2018 about Wade's alleged behaviour, and presumably his alleged call on a bishopric. And if that's the case, one must ask why D. Todd Christofferson, then an apostle with ready access to members of the First Presidency, didn't intervene and have the flag put back on his brother's record if it had been taken off, or just in any other way ensured that his brother wasn't in a position, from a church perspective, to access children. What is also interesting is the story broke about the fact that Wade Christofferson was arrested in Utah and charged federally with sexual exploitation crimes against minors on the 20th of November. The very next day, the lowering of the age at which women could do missionary service was announced, almost as though the church were trying to give people another story to discuss, allegedly.
And to be honest, it kind of worked. And also, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about the Wade Christofferson story anymore. It's an active case, I'm not a legal expert, and speculation just really isn't my game. But I tell you what was my game for years, rugby, and I do kind of miss playing it. And if you miss the old format studio videos, then please do let me know. But also be aware that man stood in a field struggling to remember his lines. That project is probably here to stay, at least for a little while. Because to be honest, makes me happy.